My favorite like under-discussed storyline is Trent Frederic versus Matthew Tkachuk. Give me your favorite storyline about this Stanley Cup Final, and that can be the rematch, that can be the goalies, that can be the depth, that can be this guy versus that guy, that can be Knobloch doing his thing. What is it?
Genuinely, it's the rematch. Like, the rematch to me holds so much weight because last year's Cup Final was so good. And both these teams getting better, having it gone 7 games and being decided essentially on, what do you say, like one play in Game 7?
Yeah, Brett Kulak turnover, bad goal given up by Stu, and there you have it.
Like, that to me, I don't know if there was a Stanley Cup Final possible in this bracket based off of the way the teams were playing that would excite me more than the one that we've got.
Who are you more surprised to see get there? I think that everybody would say that they're more surprised to see the Oilers get there.
Definitely.
But as the postseason went along, I would say I'm more surprised the Panthers got there, given that the Panthers were down 0-2 in the second round against the team that like really could have and maybe should have beaten them.
Could have said the exact same thing about the Oilers in the first round.
Yeah, one happened later though.
Yeah, which
I'm saying like by the time so second round, Oilers are rolling past teams. Panthers are down 0-2 and trailing in Game 3.
Yeah, I guess I would just I look at it. It happened earlier with the Oilers. Yeah, they gained momentum, but they had really tough opponents in the next 2 rounds too. Just because like they steamrolled through them. Like I'm not going to do revisionist history. I was worried about the Oilers in both of those series. So like I am surprised that the Oilers are not only here again, but they're here again looking so dominant. I would not have expected that. And just kind of like without Matthias Ekholm only having gotten 1 game from him, I'm very surprised that the Oilers are here. And I just think that based off of where we're at right now, we can say very emphatically these are the 2 best teams in the league.
Okay, my favorite like under-discussed storyline is Trent Frederic versus Matthew Tkachuk. And I don't know how much they're going to be on the ice against each other, but if you don't know the story, Trent Frederic grew up playing hockey in the Tkachuk's basement. And there were a bunch of future NHLers just throwing each other into the walls, injuring each other, bleeding, whole thing, going to the hospital, et cetera, et cetera. We had Trent Frederic on the show earlier in the season when he was on the Bruins, and we talked about that a little bit. And he was a little kind of cagey about it. And then in the first game of the season, Matthew Tkachuk tricked Trent Frederic into dropping his gloves. Do you remember that?
Yep, I sure do.
Said, "Let's go." Frederic dropped his gloves, and Matthew Tkachuk like told on him, and Trent Frederic took a penalty, and Matthew Tkachuk didn't. After the game, Trent Frederic said that he thought that was disrespectful to the sport of hockey, and a couple of days later said, "That guy's not my friend."
Yeah, right. That's the big thing. People are gonna. I wonder if people are gonna make this into like these 2 guys grew up together. They're great friends. It doesn't seem like they, at least from Trent Frederic's standpoint, he doesn't really like Matthew Tkachuk.
That would be the best case scenario, though, if you kept being like, Trent, I know you love this guy. You go way back, and he kept on having to be like, yeah, totally love that guy.
Yeah, don't let anybody trick you into believing that these guys are friends. I don't think Trent Frederic likes Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the exact quote. It was everywhere, and I feel like it got scrubbed from the internet. But basically, he said, "I think that I can't find it." But he basically said, "Maybe when we're done playing, we'll reconcile and have some sort of friendship." Respectfully, I know that Trent Frederic didn't use the word reconcile, but he said like maybe when we're done playing, we'll kind of clean it all up, but right now I can't stand him.
I will say Matthew Tkachuk kind of has the energy of a kid who like bullied kids in high school and then shows up to the class reunion 10 years later and nobody likes him and he's like, fucking, what's that about? I don't like, we were all boys back in the day. We were just hanging out. And meanwhile, he was just actually beating the shit out of everybody and no one liked him.
Okay, here's the quote I have. If they don't want to fight, there's not much you can do about it. That's kind of the bummer part of it. It makes it more frustrating in that sense. We sure were, in quotes, in parentheses, I'm sorry, friends. I grew up with him since I was probably 5, but yeah, it's probably been different the last couple of years. But yeah, we're family friends. It's business. I don't really care. Maybe when our careers are over, we can have a reconciliation. There you go. But right now, I can't stand him. I love that. I love that somehow Oilers Panthers is Tkachuk versus Frederic. That would have blown minds a couple of years ago.
Definitely. And I think Bruins fans are going to say it's Frederic Marchand. It's not. I feel like those guys, like, I don't know if
they
Brad
might not have
Marchand-
met each other.
Yeah, right.
Brad doesn't seem like he would spend a lot of time thinking about Trent Frederic. Now that they're not together, like,
Yeah,
he probably didn't spend a whole lot of time thinking about it when they were on the same team, and now he definitely doesn't.
And yeah, I don't know, maybe. Like I thought it was interesting when the Panthers were playing the Maple Leafs. I thought that Marchand against Carlo was really interesting.
Well, those guys are like really good friends.
Right. And yeah, I mean, a lot of it is how much do they end up playing against each other. And I won't get into breaking down matchups, but I do think that like line matching in this series is going to be super interesting because the Panthers don't like, what is their line that you have to sick the Draisaitl line against? I think that more of it is like the Panthers are the team that matches up to try to negate Leon Draisaitl than they have that super potent offensive line that Knobloch has to put Draisaitl against. Like, I think that ideally, Maurice has Barkov against McDavid, and then cool, what are you matching Draisaitl against? You know what I'm saying? Like, there isn't like a line of like 3 amazing scorers that you need to worry about negating. It's just like a bunch of lines that play really hard.
Yeah, and I think that that's probably why this matchup is so interesting again for the second year in a row, is because you've got shutdown guys on Florida side, famously 2 guys who were nominated for the Selke. One of them just won it in Barkov, and 2 of the best offensive players in the world. And I know that Leon Draisaitl has more emphasized the defensive aspect of his game in this stretch run of the playoffs, but seeing the ice time that you're going to get and the matchups that you're going to get is something definitely to keep an eye on. I also think big juice for me in this series is Stuart Skinner versus Sergei Bobrovsky again. And the stew of it all is always fascinating, but with him playing so well right now, I said this before the show, I think from a personal standpoint, maybe outside of McDavid, who just like very much needs that first cup to enter into the, okay, now we can talk about legacy. Now we can talk about the GOAT discussion fully. There might not be a single person on an individual level with more at stake here than Stuart Skinner.
I mean, I think that that's fair. And I think that you do have to take it's once you take McDavid out of it. Like, I don't think that there are huge personal reputations online. I do think, and I love this is my favorite person in hockey other than Pete and Sean. I do think like Brad Marchand going to a bunch of Stanley Cups and losing them is a kind of interesting thing, but
you're gonna say we're gonna talk about a guy going to a bunch of Stanley Cups and losing them and not have that discussion about Corey Perry.
Yeah,
like he is the losing the Stanley Cup Final guy.
Yes, but different parts of their careers is
he wasn't
and
losing
maybe
the Stanley Cups
maybe
as
I'm
a
just biased
leader.
because when you say that, I'm like, yeah, but that's Corey Perry, even though Corey Perry is like a Hall of Famer.
But for the Marchand thing,
and he's done a lot of it like riding shotgun, and this is the first time that Brad Marchand has gone to a Stanley Cup not being the driver.
That's what I was going to say. Like, he is more of a hired gun at this point. So I don't know how much really that would affect his legacy so much. But like when I say Stuart Skinner, it's like on one hand, you're going to have, if he wins, that changes the discussion around Stuart Skinner forever, whether it's fair or not. People still hype up Darcy Kemper as a Stanley Cup winning goaltender when the Colorado Avalanche largely won despite Darcy Kemper in that playoff run. And I just think that it changes the conversation specifically around goaltenders, because a lot of the times it's difficult to know how to talk about goaltenders and how to evaluate goaltenders. So when you see one win a Stanley Cup, that sticks in your mind. Yeah, and it's something that you attach to them forever. Whereas, say Stu has an average or a bad Stanley Cup final here. Say he even has a good Stanley Cup final and the Oilers lose. Whether it's fair or not in this case, too, the conversation attached to him will be, I don't think they can win with this guy.
Stu had an .899 save percentage in the Stanley Cup final last year, which, like, would you say that's like not very good? Like
At this
below
point,
average?
it's about average.
Okay, cool. Because that was Bob's save percentage in the Stanley Cup final. Stu had a .909 save percentage in the Stanley Cup final last year. Stu was the better goalie in the Stanley Cup final last year. And I know that I'm not yelling it at you guys. I'm yelling it at the earth that you can win with him and you can win with players much worse than him. You don't need a guy to stand on his head to win the Stanley Cup.
The much worse than him is tough because when Stu is bad, he's unusable.
Okay. So I'm saying like much worse than 909, and I'm sure that you mentioned Darcy Kemper. There are goalies who have won the Stanley Cup. Matt Murray, who are not amazing players. They were the goalie for a Stanley Cup winning team.
Yeah, but
and
Matt
when
Murray
people
was
say
playing
that
well.
guy won't win the Stanley Cup, like it's not like you go up to the Stanley Cup store and you don't like that guy has the cash to do it and that guy doesn't. Like you go, you perform, you play on a team.
Yeah, but the Matt Murray thing is different because Matt Murray was playing well when he won a Stanley Cup for the Penguins. Like I don't think you have to have a great goalie to win a Stanley Cup.
Definitely not. Proven.
But a lot of the times you need a goalie who is playing well. And
they did last year and they didn't.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like if Stu is playing well, they can definitely win with him. I think that we've all kind of acknowledged that. They went to a Game 7 of a Stanley Cup final against a really good team with Stu. But I just think that the narrative that's going to be attached to him, especially if he doesn't play particularly well or doesn't play as well as he did last year, it's really, really going to hold a stink to him, I think.
Okay. If he has a .909 save percentage, do you think the Oilers win the Stanley Cup? Skinner.
If he has one this year?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the big thing there, the obvious response is, well, what's Bob's save percentage? Like if Bob is a .930.
I think if you repeat the performances from last year, the Oilers probably win the Stanley Cup.
A billion
I would
percent is
agree
the
with
answer to that.
But
yes.
The thing about the performances last year is that I don't.
You can't really
correct
take
me
them
if
in
I'm
a
wrong.
vacuum.
Did Stu steal games last year? Because you can say with certainty that
Right.
Bobrovsky stole Game 1, which ended up being the difference in the series, and he was really good in Game 7.
Right.
Like so that ends up making the difference there.
I'd say I guess it's not necessarily alternatively, but like the Oilers are also better defensively. So like in theory, Stu could be worse, and the Oilers could still be more successful because the Oilers outside of Stu, I think, are a better team.
I'll summarize the goalie thing and say that last year, the guy with the better numbers lost. That can happen again.
Well, what I was going to say about the
Bob
Yeah,
can be
right.
better and the Oilers can win, or Stu can be better and the Panthers can win, like last year.
What I was going to say about the Kemper comparison is that it's interesting because I feel like the conversation around Kemper is like, look, the Avs won the cup with fucking Darcy Kemper, and then Darcy Kemper was out of Colorado the next year. So like, I wonder if there's a situation where Stu is like okay, and then that becomes the conversation where they're like, they won with average goaltending, even if Stu is like good or is good, he ends up becoming a victim of like being fine on a really good team.
Worth noting, both of these goalies right now in an absolute zone. And you can say, yeah, one had to do it against better players, but the numbers stand. .935 save percentage and a shutout for Bob in the conference final against Carolina. .924 save percentage and a shutout against the Stars in the conference final for Stuart Skinner. So this is both goalies. And I believe like Bob was not unbelievable going into the Cup final last year. Actually, no. He had good numbers going into the Cup final last year and then like would have won the Conn Smythe, but gave up a million goals.
We're facing some allegations from chat saying that Darcy Kemper sucks. We never said Darcy Kemper sucked. It said that Darcy Kemper wasn't really that great during the Colorado Avalanche run, which he wasn't. I believe like a sub 900 save percentage.
I mean,
which
that's
rarely,
why he wasn't an Av after.
Huh?
I said that's why he wasn't an Av.
And
after
I mean,
that cup.
I think respectfully, the you don't need a great goalie to win the Stanley Cup argument doesn't even need more than like if you need to spend more than 10 seconds on that mentally, you're out of your mind. Like it's just true.
Yeah.
You don't need a great goalie.
I mean, it's a
you need a play.
it's you would prefer a great
it's
goalie.
a team sport. It's literally any sport. I mean, with the exception of maybe like you probably need a great quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Like you can suffer having okay pitching if your bats are fucking insane.
And when the two players that we're talking about were 899 and 909 or whatever it was, like those are definitely good enough, especially considering the guy with the sub 900 won.
Yeah.
So, but you never know. Like Bob fades as some of these series go on. Stu gets better as some of these series go on. I think that something to watch for certainly is like, does Stu have a clunker in one of the first two games?
That was the other thing I was going to say is a 909 could look very different if he has like a 40 save shutout performance, then gives up 5 goals on 8 shots in the next game.
Yeah,
right.
true.
Does he have a Stuart Skinner 909?
Yeah, we're talking
which is
small
exactly
sample
that.
size
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Another one, depth. Who do you think has better forward depth? Crazy to say because you would think. Actually, I don't know what you would think. What would you think and what would you say? All right, it's a tough one at least then.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say Florida, but I also would have said Dallas in the Western Conference Final, and it's just Edmonton's depth just keeps showing up.
What makes me say Florida is that I can tell you their third line.
Right.
And granted,
Yeah.
I can tell you the Oilers' third line, but when I say
Yeah.
I'm like I can tell you the Oilers' third line with the fucking best line.
And you like Florida's third line has been their best line.
So that's what I'm saying. Like their third line has the like top 5 selling albums on the charts right now.
And
You
then you
know,
have,
like and so that's great. Like Luosterainen and Marchand, unbelievable. However, if we want to peek into the numbers, 5 goal scorers. How many do you think Florida has?
I don't know.
That's a tough thing.
You
to
love
kind
playing
of
this
frame.
game.
Okay, 5. They have 5 players with 5 goals. Based off of that, now you have a frame of reference. How many do you think Edmonton has?
8.
8. And
What's the games played difference? They played one
and the
more game.
Panthers have played more games than the Oilers. So in
One
fewer
more?
games, yes. In fewer games, the Oilers have 3 more players who have scored 5 goals. Both of these teams have double-digit 3-goal scorers. Edmonton has 11. Florida has 12. So this series is just overflowing with players producing.
I would assume one of those though is Zach Hyman.
One of
Right.
them is Zach Hyman.
So they have
But-
one less, I suppose.
So I guess 12 to 10. However, Jeff Skinner is getting to that number.
How many
real
does
quick.
Jesper Boquist have? Because that's what I was going to say. Is like he's kind of been. They just float him into top 6 spots, and he keeps showing up too. Because I saw he was skating for the Panthers today. I can't remember in whose place.
Jesper Boquist has 2 goals.
So yeah,
Gross.
he's another one where I'm
Pathetic. AJ Greer has 2 goals. Aaron Ekblad has 3 goals.
I was gonna
Shout
say,
out
he
the refs not tossing him from that. What was it? Game 4 against Florida? Game 3 against Florida?
How many goals does Nate Schmidt have? Because he went off in like the first.
Oh, yeah. No,
round.
Nate Schmidt has 3. Nate
Okay.
Schmidt will get you 3. Seth Jones will get you 3.
like, oh yeah,
Brad Marchand will get you 4. Give me a player. I can do this.
Nico Mikkola.
Nico Mikkola? Oh, buddy. Nico Mikkola will get you 3. Give me some Oilers. This is what the show should be.
yeah, for
Kasperi
sure.
Kapanen.
Kasperi Kapanen, he's getting you 3. He's getting you 3
Matthias
out the door.
Janmark.
Matthias Janmark's getting you 3. You know, I'll be honest. I rewatched Game 5 the other day. It was the best. Just fucking straight rewatched it.
Like of the Western Conference Final.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
Nice.
straight rewatch that shit. The
There you
Janmark
go.
goal,
we're doing reruns.
amazing.
This guy needs more hockey.
You ask me about Evander Kane.
How many goals does Evander Kane have?
Evander Kane will get you 5 goals, and that's a big one. That is a storyline this series because not only do the Oilers have a bunch of guys who are scoring goals, and the Panthers have a bunch of guys who are scoring goals. Oilers are shittier and tougher this year, and I'm not a big get shitty, get
Than
tough
they were
guy.
last year. Not
You better
necessarily
be a
down the
big
Then they
pitch.
were-
shitty get tough guy when you're talking about facing the Florida Panthers.
Yes, you at least have to like bring something to that party.
That's
and
what I
they
was
do
gonna
that this year because Evander Kane is healthy, playing really well. Trent Frederic is healthier. There have still been moments. I mean, I said after game 1 of the Western Conference Final, I was like, all right, guys, time to get Skinner back in, take Trent Frederic out of the lineup. But he's a little shitty. He's a little tough. Evan Bouchard, we were talking before the show, gets choked out by Evan. Was it Evan Rodriguez?
No, Aaron Ekblad.
Oh, it was Ekblad.
Yeah,
Well,
of course.
Roid Rage.
Yeah.
And we're saying like, oh man, like you got to show a little better than that. This year, does he get choked out again?
I don't know.
I said he doesn't get choked out again.
I think he can get choked out again. I don't know if he taps out this year because that was the big thing last year is that he tapped out or attempted to tap out against Ekblad. I don't know if he attempts to tap out. You said that he might be doing the choking this year.
Oh, yes. That's what I said. And
Evan
I stand by that.
Not be doing the choking.
I stand by that.
I said I think he could get choked again, but this time somebody does something about it.
He gave Hintz that little scare. Hintz was terrified when that stick came down.
I mean,
my foot.
Yeah, lately Bush. I feel like he's the kid that gets bullied, so he picks on the only other kid that he can bully.
I think that he did learn the lesson that he cannot tap out last year.
And he also got yelled at and immediately stopped.
How much do you think Hyman not being there takes away from the shittiness? Because Hyman's very tough as far as he will go get the puck no matter what he has to do. This year, obviously, everyone very horny about the hit stats, but still not he's not a bruiser.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it more to me. It more impacts like the actual play than it does the war after the whistles. Like I honestly think, and we talked about this before the show. Like Jeff Skinner, if he's playing, brings an element of being a pest.
Very sneaky shittiness
That's
on
what
that
I was
guy.
gonna say. I think my most interesting storyline is the grit on grit, just from top to bottom. Like everyone from Corey Perry to down and like Tkachuk down, like all of it. I just think the shittiness of this series is going to be the most entertaining part.
We haven't talked about my number one storyline of this series. We're going to do it in a few minutes with the great Ray Ferraro. Mine, Oilers breakout versus Panthers forecheck. Those are two immovable objects. The former, the Oilers breakout, like we did not go into the postseason being like, what will teams ever do about this? They were more like, are they going to have to fucking play John Klingberg? Oh my God. Is Troy Stetcher going to play? And then it reaches a point where they're like, how do you can't take John Klingberg out of the lineup, but it's we'll ask Ferraro again, but like it's a work of art and the Panthers forecheck is just a fucking nightmare. So that's going to be amazing.
We all silly like the mayor.